What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here. Hope you guys are having a good Monday night. Federal budget Monday night. So if you guys didn't check out the video we had earlier on the federal budget, feel free to check it out. I'm sure we'll have another video coming out on Wednesday or Thursday where I'll get a little bit deeper into any of the details on it. So again, I haven't seen any headlines that look like it's got major implications for us as landlords or real estate investors. So not like there's anything to get too worked up about, but I appreciate everyone jumping in the comments section. And I see one of the first questions was, do I have anything special planned for 420? I originally was thinking of doing something special for it. And I made a commitment in my head to set it aside on my calendar so nothing else would get booked. I could have sworn I did, but anyways, turns out my calendar got filled, and clearly I did not earmark it as a special date or time. And my calendar, if left to its own devices, it usually fills up from kind of 8 or 9 a.m. till 8 or 9 p.m. So that's kind of where I find myself. I think I'm going to try and squeeze out a little bit of time, but we probably won't be going live or doing anything special. I feel like I kind of dropped the ball on that, but at the same time, I was originally hoping I'd do a big thing, get a bunch of people together, go live on a live stream and get high, but I'd hate to have the COVID police come and kick down my door while we're getting high. That'd probably be a stressful situation while high. So I'm only half kidding. But yeah, so I'll probably get high by myself. I had a shout out to Steven who sent this to me in the mail. I'll probably smoke this. I probably shouldn't have said that mail part, but I appreciate the fan that gave this to me. Although that probably actually gets me in less trouble. Probably me and a person face to face gets you in more trouble then. But whatever. I got this what appears to be very potent joint, I should say, with what appears to be some hash on it and stuff like that. So probably smoke that tomorrow, and maybe I'll see a new dimension. It looks pretty powerful. But I think that's pretty much it. And then I realized I even dropped the ball. I was like, oh, tomorrow's 420. At some point today, I'll order some more weed delivered and And I totally spaced on it, forgot. And then I was like, I'm going to have to make a mental note or write a note to myself, order weed first thing tomorrow. Dude's going to be super busy, because I imagine it's kind of his, I don't know, it's his Christmas Eve. It's his December, if he was a retailer. All right. Well, I've got a bowl packed here. I'm going to blow my nose and then smoke it, and I'll jump into some comments. So feel free to hit me up in the questions in the comment section, guys, and let's do this. I need to buy a bong so bad. This bong, a year and a half of smoking it without ever seriously trying to clean it. It's not a pretty sight. One more sob story from COVID. All right. Who's ever asking about adverse possession and squatters' rights, that's not an area I specialize in. You're going to maybe there's a real estate guru out there that knows that, but that's not my domain. I've got a multifamily that I renovated and is now at 60% occupancy. Should I wait for more tenants to occupy it to appraise it, or it doesn't really matter? Depends upon the individual market you're investing in. If it's a hot market, lots of demand, probably not going to be an issue. But if it's a market where maybe there's a higher vacancy rate or something like that, then I would definitely suspect that getting it fully rented will allow you to get a top appraisal. But you should even just be able to explore that with an appraisal company, right? Call up a couple of appraisers, discuss it with them, and get their input. So another question here. Hello. If I have to do a renovation, do I have to give the unit the same tenant that had to be moved, or can the renovated unit be given to a new tenant? Oh, if I have to do a renoviction. So, hey, first of all, like, Super S, I think, like, I don't know, maybe landlords use that term, but I wouldn't say it's that common that people use that term renoviction. So if you're significantly changing a unit and renovating it, you can definitely, fill out the appropriate paperwork and go through that process. Read through the paperwork, and it'll be very clear. The gist of it, again, important that you actually sit down and read it, but the gist of it is that essentially the tenant has the right to move back in once you're done the renovations. And if I remember correctly how that's written, it's at the same price that they were previously paying. So, if the goal was to simply generate tenant turnover so that you could fix up the unit and rent it for more, I'd really encourage you to do cash for keys, sit down with the tenant, have a conversation, find out if there's a win-win opportunity there. If it turns out no, find out, is there maybe the opportunity for the tenant to move into one of the other units that are fixed up? Would they be willing to do that? And again, sometimes you can find a win-win through that scenario. Here are some interesting questions tonight. I don't even know what to say. I'm just going to skip some. Hey, if I own the properties on my personal name, can you deduct property expense from personal income since they are not owned in a different entity? I'm not sure I really understand your question, but based upon what I think your question is, I'd say it's really important you sit down with an accountant and get a firm understanding of what are deductible expenses and what's income. So, yeah, definitely talk to your accountant. Do you need a real estate license in Ontario to wholesale real estate? No, you don't need a license to assign real estate contracts. What do I think about Port Stanley, Airbnb, house prices? I'm not super dialed into that exact market, but I guess in general, I would say I'm very bullish on vacation properties. I think, Port Stanley seems well positioned overall from a vacation property perspective. I think there will be substantial premiums for properties that not only are in vacation destinations, but also like have a little bit of space or room. Again, if you assume that, whether the current restrictions that we're under continue or whether some sort of modified version of it, I think that enough time has lapsed that a lot of consumer behaviors and patterns are evolving and changing. And so I think that we'll see a general preference from most of the public for more space, more privacy, more of a feeling of feeling separate from other people. So I think that favors in general properties and locations where that's doable. So, all other things being equal, I think vacation properties will be in high demand. However, I think that vacation properties that are a little bit more secluded, a little bit more space, a little bit more privacy, they'll likely go at a premium. So I think markets that have tightly packed cottages may not fare quite as well over the next few years as properties that are a little bit more spread out. So, markets like Port Stanley or Grand Bend or Wasaga Beach, well, I think they'll do well for themselves. I think that all of the things being equal, they may not be in demand as much as the properties that are like in the Muskoka area and the Kawarthas, the Bruce Peninsula, all those areas where it just feels like you get a little bit more space. um, I think as far as like, do I think will the government try and crash an economy to push an agenda or something of that nature? I think that I think that it's hard to attribute direct hard intentions like that to an organization. So I think that it's much more likely in a lot of scenarios that there's just sequences of unintended consequences and good intentions but bad results. And I definitely think that there's a series of unfortunate events unfolding. Um, Again, I think that I'm concerned about the level of power that we seem to have handed over to unelected medical officials in Canada. And I'm very concerned about some of the powers being granted to the police, although it's been great to see local city police forces say that they're not going to act upon it. I think that there's this fear to make sure that you were the safest. There's this flight to safety right now, and people are willing to give up almost anything for the perception of safety, regardless of whether it's actually grounded in fact. And I understand that the individuals touting safety likely only have good intentions at heart, but it's not enough. And it's certainly not enough to give up one's individual liberty or freedoms for. So, again, I don't think that there's some master puppeteer pulling strings that's going to try and crash the economy or trying to enslave all of us. But I think that there's a sequence of events that are leading up to a net result that's undesirable for the average person, and certainly undesirable for the average person that values independence, freedom, agency, all those things that I really hold dear. And again, that's one of the reasons that whether you like it or don't, I've started virtue signaling on my own channel, right? I think it's really important that I make my opinions and perspective and the logic and rationale behind it shared with you guys, because I think for a long time, people in my position have just been focused on doing their thing and not really speaking out or not wanting to rock the boat, or like why get involved in petty disagreements, or why risk having people, call you bad names or be mean to you. And I think it's actually done a real disservice to society in general. And so it's more important than ever that you speak out. Being part of the silent majority that disagrees with what's going on isn't enough anymore. I think that you have to start to become vocal. And again, at the end of the day, if you actually think that everything that's going on is right, you probably should be vocal about that as well. I think you're wrong. But again, I think that we're at an interesting moment in history. So we're probably always at interesting moments in history. It's just for some reason it feels easier to see it right now. But yeah, I definitely understand the desire for individuals to want to diversify or decouple from our existing financial system. So in that regards, I think that there's a strong, very strong argument to research Bitcoin right now. I think there's a very strong argument to familiarize yourself with the white paper, read the Bitcoin standard, dabble with it. If you want, like, go set up a Shakepay account if you're in Canada, just something simple and easy. And even if you're throwing $50 or $500 into it, I think it's wise to do that, just because it's going to start to normalize and familiarize you with it in a way that just being detached from it won't. And even if you decide not to go, Bitcoin crazy, like maybe some people think I am right now, I think it's still good just to get a taste and just to expose yourself. So if and when you come to the conclusion that it is the right time for you, you'll be better able to act fast. So yeah, I haven't really made a secret here. We're two of my businesses are going to start converting 1% of monthly gross sales into Bitcoin, and probably a lot of my other businesses will follow. I personally see no desire to hold fiat currency or any significant quantities of it. So again, I just see Bitcoin as a better asset class for protecting or insulating myself from inflation risk. I don't understand how the government can just print money forever without consequence. I just don't understand how the government can just give away money everywhere. Like, Air Canada, you want $6 billion? Yeah, we'll cut you a $6 billion check. who else wants money, right? Like, this is actually really large sums of money, guys. Like, really large sums. Canada's entire GDP, last time I Googled it, was like 1.7 trillion. And, our deficit is going to be, give or take, 400 billion. And I think that that's probably a conservative estimate. If anything, I've got concerns that that number could easily balloon. And yet, that's almost, if we don't count whatever went on in the last year, I believe that that's like almost 7 to 8 times as much as the largest previous deficit that ever occurred in a year. So, like, these are big swings. And I think that there's a desire and push to push through a bunch of other spending and programs and things of that nature. And everyone's just on the feel good train right now. And they're not worried about the consequences. But I mean, if you binge long enough, there's going to be consequences. And that almost has to see itself into inflation, I suspect. Assuming you want any sort of economy to keep rolling. And again, in that case, I think that there's a strong argument to want to diversify one's holdings. But that is just me. All right, guys. I don't know what's going on. Also, I'm all stuffed up. But I don't think I'm going to do this super late tonight. I've been dragging on the sleep front. Hey, Matt, thoughts on Aurelia as a buy and hold? Not sure if you've looked into it. Seems to be a real shortage of rental properties in general available. Yeah, there definitely seems to be a lot of pressure and demand on Aurelia, at least last time I checked in. Now, one general thing I'll say to anyone watching, it's really important these days. You guys are dialed in on the data in your local market. So if you're not really paying attention to what's going on, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. So every month we need to be checking the CREA stats. Every month we need to really be paying attention to what are the new listings, what's the total months of inventory on the market, right? Where are sales at both month over month and year over year? Also be very careful about year over year data coming into March and April, because that's when COVID first hit last year. And, everything's real wonky and crazy in that regards. So you can't rely on a lot of the year over year data for the next month or two. But it's really important you're watching the data that's coming out on a monthly basis. So one of the things that you may start to hear anecdotally is, at least pre-lockdown, pre-whatever number lockdown we're in right now, it seemed like a lot of the Ontario market was, if not softening, definitely catching its breath. Now, whether we see that trend continue, I mean, I'm just going to keep my ear to the ground, really watch for the data. But I definitely get the sense from some investors that they expect the market to soften or plateau at this stage. I know other investors think that we'll continue to see pressure up until June 1st when the new rules are implemented. And some investors think that the printing press will continue forever, which means everything will eventually go up a bunch. Any thoughts on buying vacant land? I'm not a big fan of buying vacant land, unless it's for personal use, in which case you do you. But as far as like trying to do development stuff, understand that that's a whole business in and of itself. And so if you're not prepared, if you haven't already learned about this, built the connections, the relationships, figured out how to finance these things, it's not necessarily just this really easy way to get rich. In fact, it's often not the same person that initially gets the property under a contract that will see it to its fruition. So often it's going past multiple hands, multiple years. And one of the things I regularly see from first-time developers or would-be developers is that it turns out things take a lot longer than they expect. So I know of guys that bought land here in London in the 1980s, thinking it would be a great development in the 90s, and they're just breaking ground on their land now. And now, again, sometimes that's for economic reasons. Sometimes that's just practical reasons. That's sometimes because the city doesn't grow as fast or there's changes to the economic plans and zoning. So just really understand what you're getting into if you're getting into raw land. And it is a slightly different game than just basic real estate investing. All right. And do a couple more questions here. Remember the beach hotel idea I had? Well, the owner has a possession document, not a public registration document, made me to quit, and also the money for at least 6 sand foundations for the house, garden, pool. I don't know if I fully remember that, but sounds like an interesting project. So definitely best of luck on that. That's What's my takes on the pros of cons of having a duplex with a pool? Pools as a landlord sound like a terrible thing. I can't see any reason why, as a landlord, I would like pools. I can't see any reason that I'd want to take on that maintenance and hassle. So for me, that would be a non-starter unless it's for personal use, in which case, again, personal use is such a individual decision. So, yeah. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go catch up on some sleep and hope you guys have a good 420 tomorrow. Enjoy yourself. And yeah, I'll see you on the next live stream. We'll be doing Crypto Tuesday with Tim tomorrow. I'm pretty sure. So we'll be talking more crypto then. Have a good night.